everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dissection with myself, Slew, and
Jamie.
There we go. So the 7th administration is in place. Cabinet announced, but there's a certain minister that has said, no, me not judge me according to my first 100 days. This is how I'm standing on business. And that, of course, is the
one and only
Lord Gayton, the new Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton Mckenzie. So, Jamie, Minister Mckenzie wants to be measured on 100 days, like I said, and it's been 10 days.
Yeah.
As we're recording this episode. What do you make of his first 10 days in office?
Well, I think that Minister Mckenzie has been energetic, right? He's been energetic and he's lucky, right? Because he's the only minister who gets to wear Adidas and Gucci.
Right.
Because his sneakers are pretty expensive. I'm like, the man is rocking Adidas and Gucci every day going to work. I mean, that's athleisure right there. Yeah. And he goes to work in tracksuits. You know, he's like a London Mandem, called a Mandem in London. They'll be wearing that kit in it. So he's energetic. I think he has tried different things. And some of those things have been a little bit controversial. So, for example, the issue of the lists. I think that was something that created a divergence of opinion. Yeah. Because on the one hand, some people were saying, listen, we think that it was not right for him to share the information of the artists who got supported because they didn't do anything illegal. They fairly applied for those funds during the pandemic. And as a result of that, sharing their names as if there's something that they did wrong was not right.
Yeah.
And Sizwe Dlomo was one of the people who was saying that. So that was on a controversial side. Yeah. Something that came up where people were like, no, this is not the correct decision for you to make. So energetic. There are some other things that I want us to speak on. But he's also come up with some very interesting ideas, right? Like the introduction of spinning, the car spinning as a sport.
Yeah. I thought that was quite exciting.
I've never been to a spinning event. He says they're full all the time. Have you been?
No, but I've watched a couple of movies and
that doesn't count. You can't say... I've also seen them in the movies. You can't say what you saw spinning.
No, I've never been to a spinning. There's
no spinning in your hood.
No, Tembisa. None.
For real?
None. The only places that I've heard of spinning, I think is in the Western Cape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even there are specific areas. So, but nothing in Tembisa.
So there's nothing wrong with introducing different forms of motorsport as a sport, because motorsport is recognized even by the Olympics as a sport, So, but I just think it was an interesting idea. It was a controversial idea.
Okay.
Before we talk about the other stuff, what do you think about this whole lists of artists and even some of the early stuff that has happened?
I think Minister Mckenzie meant well, but it was a bit hasty. And I say that because after the lists were released, you had artists like Mckenzie coming out and saying, but I'm not a beneficiary. Yeah. People used my name wrongly. I didn't even get money. So you see that kind of confusion.
Yeah, and she looked hurt, right?
She did. Yeah. And she was hurt, rightfully so. So I think that was a good decision, but it was made very hastily, because after that, Minister Mckenzie had to then post a statement to say, no, actually, she's not a beneficiary. So they could have maybe 20 days, 30 days, but clearly he's here to work, like he said in a recent interview.
Yeah, I watched that interview, and, when I thought about, and this is what I think is a bigger discussion around what sports South Africa needs, or not even sports South Africa, what the real terrain is for sports, arts and culture is there is a difference in approach to sports, arts and culture at the school level, because Gayton spoke about school sports.
Right, bringing sports back to schools, yeah.
Bringing back sports to schools. And from what I've seen, there's no funding that is given to schools to be able to do this. And funding, you and I spoke to a person who's been very involved in school sports, in netball, in mind sports. And some of the stuff that he said, for example, for netball, he said that in many communities, there are no courts. He has to go there with chalk when he does programs, outreach programs, doing netball clinics. He's a very good netball coach. They go there with sometimes with maize meal to actually draw the lines with the ace powder, right? And there are no courts, there's no kits, and there are no fields also for other sports. So already at that level, there's something that needs to be done. He spoke about, I asked him, I said, listen, what about the combi courts? Combi courts are being spoken about by government ministers every now and again as an intervention that they're doing. But he said there's not a lot of schools which have got combi courts. So there's not enough. So that's number one.
And the issue of space. He also touched on that issue of space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second thing is the coaching. A lot of the coaching, because to develop a sport in a school, you don't just need to have the venue. You don't just need the kit. You also need people who are passionate about that and willing to do the long-term development of those particular pupils, learners in those schools, right? So as things stand right now, schools are just using teachers who are passionate about the sport when they used to play it. But you need more than that. You need more than that, right? But what happens if there's in the school there's no one who played a particular sport?
Then the sports is not going to.
Do you see what I mean? What happens if the teachers are feeling overwhelmed? Part of the reason why teachers are not best placed, particularly in public schools, is that they're dealing with very large classrooms. They're already exhausted. And a lot of them actually, if you think about the median age of teachers, it's late 30s, in their 40s, right? They're not the kind of people who are active. Many teachers, in fact, I think it's about 30% of teachers actually have got either diabetes or other lifestyle-related diseases. So it's a study that was done. I can't remember where I saw it, but that's an example of the challenge of saying you're going to rely on teachers to do. And then if the other teachers are a little in their 40s or they're no longer in shape, then the burden of doing the sports falls onto the younger teachers.
Yes.
Right. But that's not sustainable.
It's not.
Which is why you need to have coaches. If you look at what private schools do, they make sure that they've got fields. They make sure, and those fields are well taken care of, but they also make sure that they've got coaches for all of the disciplines that school is prioritizing. But on top of that, he spoke about the lack of leagues during the year. So, for instance, in netball, he spoke about how in Soweto there was the Zotwa Khoza League, but that was just a league that ran for 2 months, and the rest of the competitions are happening in festivals. If a school has a festival, people come in and then they participate, but that is not a real structure. The price is either non-existent or they are very small, so there's no real incentives for kids year on year to compete in this. But if you look at, for instance, the American school sporting codes, we've all seen the movies. People go to state, then they go to nationals, and and he was talking about how this can also be structured, you know, where you can have, because there are 24,000 schools in South Africa in the public education system, serving 13 million kids, right? So you obviously can't do a league for 24,000 schools. There's about 6,000 high schools exclusively. Also, that's a lot of schools. You can't do a league for 6,000. But what you can do is you break them up into wards.
Yes.
Right? There can be a league in a ward, or maybe 3 or 4 wards. There can be a league in a zone, right? And
in a district.
And then you go to district level. So if you have a league in the ward and then 2 schools that do well, then go to the next stage, which is zone. And then that becomes its own league. And then 2 schools at district, 2 schools at province, and then nationals.
But you know what that will also do, Jamie? Having sports at a ward level, because ward is probably the smallest we can bring a community into. It speaks to the issue of access. Part of the reason why most children do not participate in certain sports is because of access. Maybe the ground is too far. Maybe the facility that is well resourced is too far. I mean, if you think about swimming, for example. It's not like people don't want to swim. They do, but it's far.
And you know, for me, the swimming conversation is it's its own type of conversation, because you need to also have these early childhood swimming opportunities even in those communities. Because you can't just say to a 19-year-old or even a 13-year-old, come and swim and then you're going to become a competitive swimmer, right? Where are the opportunities for the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, the 6-year-olds? Because that's really where we need to have those opportunities. The other thing is that you need to then think, if we cannot have, right, a swimming pool in every school, can there be a functional swimming pool in every ward that the schools can then share?
Right.
Because that's another way of rotating responsibility, right? So that every school doesn't have to maintain that. It can be maintained at a municipal level or at another level, right? Yeah. Where even when it comes to access to computer science, right, it may not be reasonable to ask every school to have computers for every kid. But why can't there be a computer center that is shared by the schools, populated by tutors, populated by people who can come in and evaluate everything at that level? But what else did we hear about? The other thing that I think we need to discuss a little bit outside of we've discussed now the issue of the coaching and the leagues. The other side of the equation, listening to Minister Mckenzie speak on SABC in that interview, he did not speak about other types of sports besides athletics, soccer, netball, right? There's a whole
car spinning.
And car spinning.
That seems to be his favorite.
Yeah, no, that's the one that is
it might just be.
That's the onspizani. That's for my second, for real. That one is for my second.
Yeah.
So outside of the issue of athletics, soccer, and these other disciplines, they are mind sports, right? For instance, chess is a recognized Olympic sport, right? You don't go to the Olympics to play chess, but it's one of the sports that are recognized by the Olympics as a sporting code, right? They are mind sports, right? Which are organized but don't seem to be supported at a school level in South Africa right now. Video games, all of this stuff is supported. It's not supported. There are competitions for it. Yeah. Because why am I bringing this up? Because Minister Mckenzie says part of his approach to prioritizing sports is that he wants to keep the kids out of gangsterism, out of the streets, out of places where they can get bad influences.
Right.
And he used an example that he used to be playing in the streets and someone else in his street used to be going to play soccer all the time. Was it soccer?
Yes, soccer.
And then that person became a professional player while he ended up in prison. And he said that he saw that person while he was in prison, right? To say, oh, this guy was doing, disciplined stuff, playing his sports. Look where he is now. I chose a different life. Look where I am now. Fair. If you're trying to remove kids from negative influences, not every kid is going to be proficient in sport. Not every kid is going to be attracted to sport. Okay. So in as much as you think, okay, other people want to go spinning and in the hood, what about those who want to play FIFA, the video game? What about those who want to play dot, whatever, the video game? What about those who want to play chess? Then you're going to mention indigenous.
Of course. I'm taking it there.
Take it there.
I'm taking it there because South Africa is also a country that has got, rich heritage, and indigenous games are a part of a lot of people's, childhood. And to know that there are actually people like the gentleman we spoke to that have actually played these sports and they were able to advance.
Yeah.
Proves that there is something that we can still work with there. So it doesn't mean just because there's going to be car spinning for children in the hood, then we cannot develop some kind of structure for indigenous games.
Car spinning is for adults. It's not really a sport for young people.
In a village. Yeah. So we should keep an open mind is what I'm saying.
In fact, this issue of indigenous sports is an important sport. It's an important point.
Have you played
in and of itself? No, not really. I can play mraba, but not so well. But what was I going to say? So there are sports like Khati, Mrabaraba, and exactly. And these sports are also sports.
Yes.
So it's going to be important for Minister Mckenzie to give this sports status. Apparently, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture used to organize indigenous games. And many people actually say that they used to participate in those. And the guy that we spoke to, class, he says that he was actually going to nationals and he was number 2 in the country at Mrabarab. So if we already know that there used to be this kind of support. Sports should not just be, you see, he's being creative in how he's thinking about sports, because he's thinking spinning. You know, I've seen people spinning, people spend a lot of money on their cars. Let's recognize this. I've always seen full spinning venues, because obviously he would go to those kind of things, you know, part of his cultural background, you know, as somebody who was, you know, in the fast life, you know what I'm saying? But in as much as that is something that can be recognized as a sport, what about the indigenous games? Why not give those status as well? If you're bringing sports back to schools, let's not think about it in a rigid way to think that sports is only cricket or netball or all of these. What about indigenous games? If you go to China, you know, they've got that chess, right? Chinese chess called Go. It's big in China. You and I may not follow it much, but in China, they know who is the Go grandmaster. They know who is number 10, who's number 15 in the league for Chinese chess.
Yeah.
Because they give it status and gravitas. And that could also create an industry in and of itself. But if we do not give status to different sporting disciplines, and we just want to give sporting disciplines that have been recognized by other countries' status, that also becomes a problem. Or European sports only.
In addition to that, Jamie, we also have to remember that not everyone that plays sports or wants to play sports is able-bodied. So the department also has to find a way to include differently abled people.
And having these opportunities also allows, right? Because mind sports, it allows you to compete regardless of your physique, regardless of some of the issues that could affect you. So that's one part of it. The other challenge that I'm having, or maybe not a challenge, maybe a critique, is that I haven't heard Minister Mckenzie speak about things such as debating, such as drama, such as public speaking, such as moot court, right? There are so many other disciplines, because his whole perspective is, I want to keep children out of the streets so that they don't become gangsters, right? Some people will like to play sports. Some of them may even like to play mind sports. But some people may want to do stuff that is cultural. And by the way, all of this reinforces what happens in the classroom. Because if you get good at certain disciplines, it helps you in the classroom.
Yes.
But it also helps you just stay away from negative influences, right? And we can't have everyone aspiring to be Kabza or Maporisa. That's not healthy. And right now, young people are spending a lot of time all working on DJing and learning how to do what is this thing called? The Bacardi. We can't have everyone trying to do Bacardi. No, objectively, right? Like how many Bacardi masters can they be?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I haven't heard Bacardi in a long time.
No, but the dance is still...
Yeah, but I guess it also speaks to the fact that there are many other people that are interested in other things besides what you are talking about. But if there is no provision of that discipline, then where are those
people? That talent gets lost.
Exactly.
There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of youthful ambition. Teenagers want to be great. They want to do great things. They want to change the world. So we already know that.
Yeah.
They're not being given opportunities. But if you go to private schools, there are opportunities for everything. So if the minister is serious about all of this stuff, he then has to really have conversations about don't just say you're bringing schools, sports back to schools. That has to have structure, and you have to start finding budget. There is no budget, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that we must accept that. Right? The fact that the status quo is the way it is doesn't mean that we should approach it and say, okay, there's no money, so therefore township schools will never have netball leagues, this and this and this. The question must then be, how can that money be fundraised? He's saying that, the netball team is selling oranges and all of this to raise money. That shouldn't necessarily be their responsibility.
Shouldn't be the case, yeah.
Because you there as the minister, you there with the whole department of people, utilize your brain resources, your human resources, your networks. How is it also, like, sometimes money comes in from the international community and it gets chowed. Lots of money was given to South Africa for the World Cup. And that money, there was a Netflix documentary on the World Cup. money didn't go where it was meant to go. The whole of Africa, it's not a South Africa thing.
Mm-hmm.
In France, when they were being asked for their votes, they said, no, you have to buy this, you have to buy this, you have to fund this particular TV team, soccer team, etc. This is what they were saying to the Qataris. They're like, we're not just going to give you this vote.
Yeah.
We want you to do serious things in this country.
Yeah.
And then these people had to buy PSG and all of that. Right? So what was done with money that was given already and what is being done to attract certain kinds of funds from the international community. So for instance, with esports, I'm sure the esports community wants there to be a vibrant esports culture in the townships of South Africa. They want to grow that as well. I'm sure with mind sports, whether it's chess. In chess, I know this for a fact, that there was drama in Chess South Africa. SASOC removed Chess South Africa from being part of its entity because of the dispute that is unfolding there. Chess in South Africa is not where it's supposed to be, right? There are no robust chess competitions, leagues, and opportunities for kids in the townships as things stand right now. There's drama and chaos there. Netball is not the only sport. Cricket, rugby are not the only sport. Even swimming. These are not the only sports. These are not the only activities. So my point is, if Gayton is going to think about these things seriously, and I hope that he will, and that maybe some of his people watch this, that we can move to a situation where we're not just talking about netball, cricket, rugby, and soccer. We're talking about everything, including arts, including how to really expand these opportunities to young people so that they can really have a chance.
Yeah. And just to add on to your point, when you mentioned the issue of funding in different communities, I remember growing up thinking that it's normal for us to use chalk to draw a court. Because every other community that I went to, that was what was being done. So it's important that intentionality is also prioritized in this instance. But Jamie, something that has also kind of rubbed me the wrong way in the 10 days that Minister Mckenzie has been in office is how he has not mentioned enough about arts. We have heard artists complain so much, talking about the copyright amendment bill. There's so much more that needs to be done in the field of arts, but the minister seems to be quite mum. Yes, he mentioned that he's met artists, but we don't even know what kind of artists he met. Who are these artists that he's been speaking to? So it would be great to see and hear what his plans are, considering that he's got plans for the sports division.
And also the National School of Arts, it needs a lot of financial support. There are already schools that are committed and dedicated to these kind of disciplines.
Yeah.
But the School of Arts, I think, is in need of a lot of refurbishment. It's in need of a lot of funding, and there needs to be an appreciation of artists and art. And I don't think Mr. Mckenzie right now he's in full Adidas mode, right? And that's fine. I've got no problem with that. I love his energy.
Yes.
I love that he's even tried to encourage people to run, and he's doing the Nelson Mandela walk. That's all great.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than just that particular area. And hopefully we begin to see concrete plans come out of his department around school sports.
Yes.
Already now we're in term 3. So there's not a lot that can happen within this term. But next year, when schools open, are they going to be leagues? Do you know what I mean? That's a question that I have. Are they going to be leagues? What do you guys think, though? Do you guys think that he's done enough? Do you think that super fans should even be a thing? That's a topic we didn't even get a chance to talk about. Me personally, I like the idea of super fans. I think they have value. I think 2 people can't be the only 2 super fans. They must rotate. They don't have to stay in 5-star hotels, etc., etc. If they were, I don't think that's a good thing.
So you think they should downgrade?
If they were, right? Because Gayton said that they were staying in 5-star hotels, all that stuff. That's not necessary. Business class, fly economy, mama joy, right? But I also think that the idea that he spoke about, that, because he was like, I was a super fan, I was self-funded. But he's a man who is often say that he's a wealthy somebody, he can self-fund.
He's a minister that's donating his salary to the department.
Which is good, but it just shows that you've got money. The thing I wanted to say is that being a sports fan is not reserved for the suburbs. It's not reserved for the elites.
Yeah.
It's not reserved for accountants, doctors, engineers, ministers, and MPs. Somebody can love rugby from, rural KZN,
Yeah.
Mpangeni, right? Don't they deserve a chance to also go watch a Rugby World Cup?
Absolutely.
If we're trying to really create appetite for sports, it's not just about SABC showing the national team, which I agree with him should be done, but also what about young people who want to watch rugby? So, or not even young people. What if there's a guy who works at Engine, but he loves netball? Can he not also get an opportunity? So the suggestion that I'm making, and I'm putting it to you guys, I want to hear what you think. There should be some kind of a lottery.
Okay.
For tickets.
To be a super fan.
Not a super fan, just a fan.
Okay.
Because super fan is a different thing. I think we should have super fans. I think they're good for brand South Africa. I think tourists want to meet them. They want to take photos with them. There's something about the super fans, man. They're overzealous. They've got kids. They have these traditions. They've got songs.
Yeah.
They've got kiss. They've got all of this stuff, which is, you can't always get that.
Right.
But I think, let's say there's going to be, let's say Olympics. Let's say you want to go to the Olympics. Why shouldn't there be like 50 tickets that are available with accommodation? Will help you with your visa, will help you with your passport. And then if you enter, all you have to do is be a citizen. You enter. If you win, you go.
That's it.
Why must there be more?
Yeah.
Right? Because we're trying to foster unity. It cannot be stronger together if every time the rugby team is playing overseas, the whole audience is white.
Right.
And Kaya. Because he can afford to go. But that can't be the case.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If we say we want to really get this thing to be a unifying framework.
Yeah.
Wouldn't a lottery solve a lot of those problems?
I agree with that. In fact, we can even make it better, Jamie, and test it locally. So it doesn't have to be international matches yet. Like now, the rugby team is going to be playing in KZN.
Yeah.
So have something like that and take somebody from, I don't know, Mpumalanga, from Limpopo.
Why not?
And take them to KZN.
And then they get to meet the minister. They sit in the booth. This is how you get interest in sports. Part of what creates revenue for sports is audience. What's a better way than making people want to watch than let them enter lotteries? Build up the audience. The reason why you were saying, spinning is never empty is because there's an audience, right? Many sports are exciting.
Yes.
Many sports deserve a chance. Also, I think there needs to be a thought around the SABC having its own sports coverage for developmental sporting leagues, etc., etc.
Besides soccer?
Yeah. So I'm saying, think about it like this. If SABC had a sports channel, 24-hour sports channel, where you can go watch the high school soccer league, where you can watch the high school debating league, the high school, the university netball, the university basketball. Why is that the property of SuperSport only?
They can even run it on their app because the SABC.
Yeah. Put it on the app. Why is that something that we're waiting for? There's a lot of sports, and believe me, if now there's a little bit of TV, then some people will start sponsoring those teams because they'll be like, oh, this team will show up on SABC. Then they'll sponsor those teams. Then you'll start having some professionalism in those disciplines. It shouldn't just be the fact that the only time you can watch any sports is on DSTV. Why not provide some cover? SABC can get cameras to communities with sports journalists to cover some of this stuff. Why not be experimental in that way?
Absolutely.
And then have that also covered in terms of budget-wise, not particularly by that department. But I think also as a final thought, and we're out of time, is I think also people must look at the serious collaboration that needs to happen between the Department of Sports and the Department of Education.
Yes.
These things are linked. And we need to see synergy between Siviwe and Gayton. We need to see synergy. Because how is he going to introduce school sports without talking to her? Because sometimes it's about issues of what are the sporting dates? Where can we fit in the matches? How do we get this information to parents? How do we do learner transport? Because those are going to be issues.
Absolutely.
Because if you have an away game,
yes,
how do you get there? How do you get away?
safety is also an issue. Yeah.
So there's a conversation that needs to happen. But I think he's got the energy for this job. He seems to be approaching it with the right attitude, good spirits. Let's see what happens. But those are our thoughts. What do you guys think?
Let us know in the comment section.
And if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe.
And we are definitely going to make sure that we have another episode on the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture. 100 days. Maybe
so today is
things
day
would have
10.
changed. It's
But
day 10.
We should do day 50 and then day 75, day 100.
We are counting.
And we'll do other ministries as well. But Gayton was in the news, so might as well.
There we go. Till we meet again.